technology affects the everyday life of the children. And when it is affecting everyday life of the children, it is very important for us as lecturers to be able, or as teachers, to be able to guide children and help them understand how to use it properly, because they are using it in their everyday lives, or in their day-to-day involvement in the environment, and sometimes they might misuse it. So that is why we were saying that any digital tool or any technology tool, then it needs to ensure an educational purpose. It also needs to encourage collaboration to teach the child to be able to work with others very well. It also needs to integrate other aspects of the curriculum. There was also the principle of making sure that the child is in control. As you guide the child, as you show the child, then they need to be in control. They also need to show that the applications are transparent. Like we were saying, some of these applications which we would be using are going to have some other connotations. You can go to an application and it has some other intention, or it is serving some other purpose, exposing the child to some content they are not supposed to view, giving the child some kind of stereotype, like this kind of culture is the best, or when you are informed like this, then you are better than others. Those are stereotypes we need to avoid. And then we also said that it needs to avoid things which are going to expose the child to violence or affect the child health wise. That is why in the that lecture we were talking about being aware of healthy and safety issues, whereby the child needs to maybe sit on the computer for 30 minutes to 1 hour. That is more than enough. A child of up to 8 years. So prolonged exposure can also bring about health issues like eyes or the back problems when you sit in front of the computer for a long time. So today we would like to understand, how do teachers use technology? Computers, basically, when we are talking about technology, we are limiting ourselves to computers and the accessories found within computing systems. So they can use computers to create instructional material. They can also use computers to manage student records, also to locate resources on the internet, and they also help learners to meet their desired outcomes. Sometimes computers, like we will see, can help those students or children who have maybe challenges, physical challenges like hearing challenges, seeing challenges, or perception challenges, so that they can achieve the same learning objective just like the other regular children. So those are the uses of computers or technology for teachers. When they are using these technology tools or the technology itself, there are standards that have been outlined, so that once you follow them, then you will be able to achieve the educational purpose and be able to achieve the objective of ensuring that the child has acquired the knowledge that they need. So these standards describe how educators should be using technology for instruction. That is number one. They also need to guide educators how to use technology for assessment and also for their own professional practice. Because at the end of the day, an educator needs to remain professional. They need to develop themselves professionally, conduct themselves professionally. So when using technology, then these are the areas which are going to be touched by the use of these standards. Now, these standards, they are going to help the students, or they list how the students are going to acquire the required knowledge, the required skills when teachers use them. So there are going to be technology standards for teachers. There are also going to be technology standards for students, so that they can be able to understand the level of technology and the proficiency of skills that they need. So, like we had said, they are going to use it, the technology, to locate lesson plans. maybe participate in collaborative projects, engage in peer discussion and teaching forums, manage student records, create instructional material and presentations. And these standards help teachers to use computers as a creativity and a thinking tool. So these standards are found in the International Society for Technology Education. This is the body that provides guidelines and indicators for integrating technology into teaching and learning. The first standard looks at technology operations and concepts. And here, teachers are expected to demonstrate introductory knowledge, skills, and understanding of concepts related to technology. Meaning that if you are going to maybe use a computer to teach a child maybe to format a document or maybe to create or to draw, then you need to be able to understand what is called a mouse. Then the mouse is going to have a pointer, and what is the name of that pointer? What is it supposed to do? When it changes form, like it is a selector. At one point, it is a pointing device. Another point, it is a selecting device. Another point, it is actually the drawing device. So you need to be able to show them the knowledge, you are knowledgeable in showing the child that you understand what this is and what it does. So that is what we mean by the first standard when we are talking about technology operations and concepts. As an educator, you need to show that you are aware of the technology that you are using. And this, we are saying, you should also show continual growth in technology knowledge as well as skills so that you stay abreast of the current and emerging technologies. The second standard talks about planning and designing learning environment and experiences, whereby teachers should be able to design developmentally appropriate learning opportunities that apply technology and enhance those instructional material so that you can support the diverse needs of learners. In any class, you will find that there are learners who are a bit advanced or they seem to know more than the others. How do you take care of those two separate or those diverse groups of learners you have in a class? So when you are creating any learning environment, it needs to take care of those students or those learners who are a bit advanced, those who are a bit slow in catching up with the rest, so that everybody feels included. That is why you need to create an environment and an experience that can be able to help in locating resources in the runtime and evaluate them for accuracy and sustainability. In the future, we will be looking at how do you evaluate which content to use in a classroom? How do you evaluate which web content is right for the children? There are several metrics which you are going to follow for you to be able to say this is the right content, and also this content is properly displayed or is properly presented for the learners to be able to understand. So there is that standard. The third standard talks about teaching, learning, and curriculum, whereby teachers are supposed to facilitate the technology enhanced experiences that address content standards, student technology standards, and use technology to support the learner. Here, we are trying to look at strategies that are going to address the diverse needs of students as well as apply technology to develop students' higher order skills and creativity. Like we said in our first class, is that you need to always ensure that the students are all included. You need to be able to incite the child to think. You need to be able to help the child to be creative. You know, give the child a chance to play, whereby they are interacting with the technological tool. They also need a chance to learn. So there is the opportunity for learning. And also, at the end of the day, how are you going to evaluate whether the child has learned or not? Is there a way they can repeat the same activity with the tool? Maybe they are using a digital camera to take a photo, or they are using a computer to maybe record a song. So can you repeat the same? Can you evaluate the child? Can the child play on their own? Or is it assisted technology where you need to be constantly there? So that is what the standard is talking about. The next standard is on assessment and evaluation. Here, teachers need to be able to apply technology in assessing the student. Like we will see, there are those applications which are very important, or they assist the child to learn because they are self-evaluating. Maybe a child is given an option where they are selecting maybe an answer, or they are selecting a pattern, and if it fits, they move to the next level. If it doesn't fit, then they are given another chance to maybe try again until they get it right. And that will help them to learn, and in the process it will have assessed maybe how many trials did the child have to go through. So it records that, and you as an educator, you will be able to maybe collect that data, analyze it, interpret the results, and then you can be able now to go back to the child, assist them on how to do it better, or teach them tricks on how to quickly learn how to do it. And that application will be more helpful than an application whereby the child has to wait for you to come and help them to move ahead, or the child is always demoralized by the application giving them an outcome that they have done something wrong. That will demoralize them, it will make their self-esteem go down, and that is something we always need to avoid. Then there is a standard for productivity and professional practice, whereby this one is going to allow educators to, to use technology resources so that they can also grow themselves professionally, so that they can continually learn the new practices, they can continually learn about new technologies, and in the meantime, it is also helping them to apply the technology that they have learned, as well as communicate with other educators, collaborate with their peers, interact with parents and the larger community in order to nurture the student learning. What is there today may not be there tomorrow. So if there is some new technology, there is some new method which is going to help the child learn better, you need to learn it. You need to be able to acquire it using technological tools. Like you were telling me in the previous class that most of these curriculum-based activities, you are learning them from maybe the YouTube. So through use of technology, that is YouTube, you are able to learn what are the new practices, or what is the best way of performing a certain activity, and then go and educate your children. Then through that, it is what we are calling now professional practice and productivity. Then the last standard talks about social, ethical, legal, and human issues, whereby educators need to be able to learn the legal and ethical practices which are related to technology use. And they also need to know how to apply technological resources to enable and empower learners with diverse backgrounds. Like keep on saying that every learner is also equal. So you do not need to discriminate on one learner. Each of these learners have different backgrounds, they have different characteristics, they also have different abilities. So it is the work of the educator to use technology resources that are going to affirm diversity. They are also going to promote safe and healthy use of technology, so that everybody is included. At the same time, you're not infringing on the right of others. Even when accessing content in the internet, you are not going to have copyright issues. That is where we are talking about legal issues, so that you are able to know. Maybe if you download maybe some content which is pirated, that can be dangerous when you are sharing with your children. You need to have the copyrights, or you need to have the right to use it with your learners. So those are things you as an educator you need to be aware of. When we are looking at the tools which you are going to apply these standards on, then we are looking at tools that include productivity tools which help you to create instructional and creative tasks. That is something which we have already done. If you look at the first point, when we are looking at instructional material, you already did that with the PowerPoint assignment. Record keeping, you did that with the Excel assignment. Then there are internet resources, which I know some of you used some material from the YouTube, so at least you came across that. Then there is also productivity and management tasks. These ones are like for creating lesson plans, which you have done, electronic discussion, which we are going to have as our next assignment, and then any other additional resources, which include things like peer communication. You know, you as an educator communicating with others, sharing knowledge, and maybe trying to create a common evaluation for your children across different educational centers. That is something we can use with ICT. So this regarding electronic discussion and additional resources is going to be our next assignment as we move on. So these are the examples we are talking about. What we haven't touched on at the moment is like now maintaining student records in a database, which we are going to be doing. The next assignment that I shall be giving will be capturing this, because you have already talked about tracking student grades. Although we will try to look at this one, I saw that nobody got this one about tracking student grades, maybe ranking them and all of that. We will look at it, how you actually do it, and then we will be good to go. So those are the tools we are calling productivity tools. Then we have some online resources. We have some online resources which you can access, look at in your own free time, which I tried to summarize here, but they are as good as the Google we are using or the YouTube we are using. They are specific for educational institutions. So you can also look at them and see how they are normally used. So the links are active. When you go to them, you will see how they are normally used. Now, when selecting a grade book, and this is something I would like you to take note of seriously, and if you normally make notes, maybe put a star on this one, because it is highly examinable and you might come across it in the exam. When selecting a grade book, what are some of the criteria you should use? What are some of the metrics which are going to guide you? So one of them is the security features. Is it like the program, is it password protected? You need to be sure that it has good security features. It is flexible. When we are talking about flexibility, it is in terms of, is it limiting in terms of the number of students? If we are talking like an Excel sheet, it is not limiting, but there are some other tools which you are going to use, which are going to be limiting, maybe the number of students allowed, the number of classes, or the number of assignments you can be able to give. If there are such limitations, then you are going to be having a challenge. Grading options. Are you able to maybe do proper grading in terms of percentages, ranking of students? All of these are connected to the Excel sheet assignment that we were doing, which is very important for you to look at. You can also generate graphs. Out of these, you can generate graphs which are going to inform you who scored better, and you can be able to analyze how is the class performing, maybe from last term to this term. It can also be able to generate reports which are able to give you a picture of how things are happening in class in terms of maybe a group of students, a group of individual learners, or in terms of the assignments. This assignment, how was it performed? The other assignment, how was it performed? Is there an area which you need to improve on? All of those. Ease of use. Is it easy to use? If you are taught how to go through it, are you able to learn about it quickly, or is it going to give a challenge? So That is also something you need to look at. And other features include things like tracking attendance, creating sitting charts, managing other aspects of instructions, like we were talking about putting in sound, video. Is it able to incorporate all of that? Is there an email feature built in where you can be able to share with maybe the parents when once you have given the student the assignment? There's also, does it have a mobile feature inbuilt whereby you do not need to, to only use a computer, but you can also use a mobile device? So all of these are very important criteria when selecting a proper gradebook for recording or for managing a class. So internet resources for those are also included there. You can also look at them on your own free time, because I know in the assignment we'll be able to cover them. The productivity management tasks will include things like lesson plans that we have done, electronic discussion, we shall be doing it, email we have done, and then list serves, which now are those specific repositories in the internet whereby when you subscribe, you can be able to be given updates on a particular subject, whereby you can be able to learn what are the new developments, what are the new styles of doing things. All those are found in listservs. So these are resources for educators, and they are the ones that we normally use. Allow me to stop there and maybe ask if there is any question. Any question up to there regarding the tools for educators? Any question or comment? Okay. If we have no question or comment, I would like us to get into lecture 4, which looks at meeting needs of all learners. Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes, we can see.
Okay, thank you. So, when we are talking about meeting the needs of all the students, maybe I would like to ask you, we normally talk about children born in this 21st century, especially from 2000 up to now. We are normally calling them the digital citizens or digital natives. And sometimes there is this assumption that, since they have been exposed to technology since they were born, then they know how to use technology even better than us. Do you think that assumption is true, first of all, that since they are digital citizens, they are able to learn the technology themselves, they will learn it and they will be able to use it anyway? We do not need to teach them. Is it a true assumption, or what do you think?
Hello.
Yes.
I can say it is
Good evening.
not.
Area where the child is born or where the child is brought up in.
Sorry, somebody was speaking. I think, was it Seriana or is it
It's
Margaret?
Susan.
Oh,
It is
it's Susan.
Seriana.
Yes.
Great.
Oh, okay. So let me start with Susan.
Yes, thank you. According to that notion, I think that it depends with the local with the what can I say, the place where the child is brought up in, because we find that in most urban areas these children are exposed to many technological devices, whereby you find that they have tablets, they have phones from an early age, or rather they are able to access their parents and their guardians' devices, and there they become acquainted with how to use them, how to download videos, and how to go and even watch the videos from apps like YouTube. But if probably a child is brought up in a rural area where he or she is not very much exposed to these devices, there is a difference between the two children. Some are very capable of using these devices, while others they are not quite acquainted with it. That is my opinion. Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Susan. Seriana, what is your thinking?
Okay, I was thinking almost the same, but I can say even those who are in towns, there are those children who are not exposed in these devices. And if a child is more exposed, they are able to tackle all the devices and be able to come up with some new ideas on how to do some things. And I think as teachers, we need to expose these children when we are in school. We try to see what they know, and then we can give them whatever they don't know. So most of the time, we should not assume that they know. There are those who have never touched even a mobile phone. They don't know how to press it. They don't know how it is uh, connected. They don't know how to do anything about the mobile phone. So we need to help them, and they can be able to be creative enough and understand whatever they are expected to do with the devices.
Okay, thank you. What about you, Margaret? Hello, Margaret. Oh, as she gets ready or comes back, maybe now you have said from the two contributors, it is that one thing we have agreed is that children are exposed to technology. Number two is that they might know it more than us. But then Seriana has gone ahead and said, we do not need to assume that since they know, then we can't teach them ICT. Maybe expose them to the technological tools and then see what they know, and we also expose them further to some new knowledge. So that is the status of now. So is it necessary to teach them? That is the question. Irene, what do you think? Or any other person? Is it necessary to teach them? And as you answer, remember when we started in the class, we said that technology can be used for learning and also teaching, meaning that it can be used for creating knowledge and it can also be used for acquiring knowledge at the same time. So it has those two functions. It is something you need to learn, first of all, and it is also a medium with which you can use to learn or teach, like we are doing now. We are using technology to meet virtually, so we are using it as a medium to maybe learn and teach. At the same time, if you don't know how to use it, you need to learn how to use it. So it has those two dimensions. So do we need to teach them?
Uh, yes, I feel like it is necessary to teach these young learners how to manipulate technology, because technology has a great impact on learning, because learners and teachers are able to acquire and get more information and knowledge concerning particular contents that supplements on what is learnt in class and what is in the textbooks. So I think and I feel like it is necessary to introduce these learners to technology so that they can even be able to manipulate these gadgets and the technology for themselves, to make them more independent and make them open-minded to learn more even from the internet, not only depend on what is taught in the classroom. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Irene, what did you say?
I think it is good to teach them. This is
Mhm.
because even as we look at the new curriculum, it is
Yes.
talk about digital literacy. So as a
Aha.
teacher, it is good to be exposed to this digital, digital, digital literacy so that we can be able to teach our runners. Because sometimes even the activity they are given, they can be given activity to go and download something and then print and bring it back. So it is good for teachers to teach the runners about how this new technology is being applied, and I know they can understand and learn more about it. Thank you.
Ah, I think you have hit the point. Thank you for that. At least you have touched the two areas of using technology as a medium and also using it to learn. So, like when you are saying they can be given assignments to go and download, meaning that they need to have the know-how of how maybe to access the internet, go to the specific location where the content is, download, print, and bring. And so they need to have the know-how of how to do that. And at the same time, they also need to manipulate the gadgets. So that is true and that is correct. And that now brings the basis to this chapter where we are talking about meeting the needs of all students. And like you can see, we are saying that students are going to use technology, or these learners will use technology as a thinking and a creativity tool. So on one side, it helps them to critically evaluate things and ask questions like, why is this done the way it is being done? Is there a better way of doing it? So that is why they are very active with shortcuts, with keyboard, and so many other activities they know how to manipulate, because that is the aspect of thinking, questioning, why is this done like this? And then, is there a better way of doing it? Or is there an alternative? That is where we are bringing in the aspect of creativity. So technology can be used in those two ways by learners, and we need now to channel it, because learners can be exposed to it and they can use it maybe to just play. They can remain at that level of playing. We need to take it to the next level of ensuring that they are going to achieve the desired learning outcome. And here, now we are going to exploit things like multiple intelligences, whereby somebody can use several of them. Like we will see, there are several intelligences. We can also exploit constructivism, whereby you're going to combine those several intelligences and then maybe construct some new kind of knowledge. Then there is also the aspect of cooperative learning, whereby students now can cooperate with one another. They can learn from each other, where we are talking about peer learning, which we said is also very good, because when a learner is being told by their peer, maybe they might be able to learn even better. So with those three aspects we are exploiting, we also say that technology can also help students with additional needs. Maybe there are those who don't understand the basic English like we do, then it can be used for translation. Maybe you go to Google and you try to translate from Swahili to English, maybe to another language. That is one. Also, assistive technologies like the ones we were talking about with hearing disabilities or speaking disabilities, then they can use sign language through computers and they are also able to learn. So they can assist even gifted students. There are those students who are far ahead. They are able to do things, the ones we call wizards. They are gifted in computers. They are able to do many other things. Then it is very easy through use of technology to identify and also support them. So technology is effective for teaching and learning with all levels of students, including those with special needs, because it will increase students' achievement, and also it increases students' motivation, self-esteem, self-confidence, and success. And that can only be achieved through the way we are going to use it. Like supporting, the way we use it is to help in supporting higher order of thinking. That is the critical aspect. Why is this one happening the way it is happening? When you touch a computer here, why does it respond this way and not the other way? So that is the higher order of thinking. Then it can be used also for problem solving. It develops problem solving skills, whereby now students can be able, if you teach them maybe to insert a new slide, to insert a picture in a PowerPoint, they can also be able to know how to animate that picture, make it maybe in a small movie. That helps them to learn. And also problem-based learning. When they create issues, then they can be able to solve them. So that is how we can use technology to help students. And here, computers would become what we call intellectual partners, whereby they are supporting learning by allowing students to use them as tools to construct knowledge, to explore and assess information, to simulate real-world problems, and collaborate with others in articulating and representing what students know and apply real-world skills. So all of these are areas we can use computers as intellectual partners. Now, when we are looking at the traditional and the new learning environment of using computers, is where we can see that in the traditional learning environment, we have teacher-centered instruction, whereby it is just what the teacher is saying and that's it. But when using computers, then the student can also be involved, and we talk about it being student-centered learning, whereby it is the student who is more in control and not in the teacher. We also have in the traditional environment a single sense of stimulation. Maybe it is what you are writing on the board. But when it comes to a computer, we have a multisensory stimulation whereby the student can see, maybe they can hear a sound, and maybe they can simulate what they are seeing. Maybe you are showing them on the board, maybe you are displaying with a projector, and when you show them what they can do, they can also try it by themselves. So that brings about the multisensory stimulation. In the traditional, we talk about the single path progression, but in the new environment using computers, we are talking about a multi-path progression. Single media compared to multimedia in using computers. In the traditional, we talk about isolated work. In the computer-based environment, we are talking about collaborative working. Then we are talking about information delivery in the traditional learning, but in the new learning environment using computers, we are talking of information exchange. You show them what you have, they also learn something, and they can also show you what they have. So that is the differences you can find between the two learning environments. So these are the different the differences which compare the traditional class-based learning environment and the computer-based learning environment, and the differences between the two. When we are talking about the traditional, we talk about factual knowledge. But in the new learning environment, it is inquiry-based, whereby somebody is able to ask why things are happening like that, and they need to see why they happen and how they happen. There is the kind of reactive response, but in the new learning environment, we talk of proactive response. And that is how the two environments differ from one another. And that is why we are saying that computers now can be used as um, intellectual partners. The new learning environment supports multiple intelligences. When we are talking about multiple intelligences, we know there are those learners who can be good in linguistics. There are those who are good in logic or mathematical intelligence. There are those who are good in spatial or space-based intelligence. There are those who are kinesthetic. There are those who are musical, interpersonal, intrapersonal, naturalistic, and those are different intelligences. Sometimes you can come across a learner who has two or three or one, and when you combine them, then they are going to be more benefit. So when we want to support that new learning environment and put in the constructivism theory, then we are talking about constructivism theory emphasizing on inquiry, decision making, problem solving, critical thinking, and reflection. That is how it can be able to combine several intelligences. Because when you talk about multiple intelligences, like logical will be inquiry and decision making. Then another one will be based on problem solving, critical thinking, and reflection. And with that, then you can create some new environment altogether. This new learning environment also supports cooperative learning. When we are talking about cooperative learning, then we are talking about working together or learners working together, helping one another, peer teaching. This is what we refer to as peer teaching, as shown here. When we are also talking about accommodation of individual differences, there could be a learner who is strong maybe in logic. Another one is strong in maybe linguistic. Then with those differences, then using computers, they can support one another, they can be accommodated. Also, increased use of metacognitive and elaboration strategies because of the what we are calling the multi-environment inclusion using computers, whereby you can have video, audio, and visual. So when you have those three mediums combined, then you can bring about the metacognitive and elaboration strategies. Then there is the aspect of self-reflection, increased motivation and performance, as well as positive attitude towards learning. This is based on that sense of achievement when a learner is able maybe to perform some activities by themselves and they are able to feel that if I am able to do this, then I can do more. The new learning environment also supports students with additional needs, like we had said. There are those with limited English proficiency, those who have physical challenges, learning disabilities, and gifted talents. All that can be supported. So, what are the prerequisites to using computers in the classroom? One of the things that we need to understand is what is classroom management? How are you going to manage that class when you are using computers? Then what are the school policies? How are you going to assess the class? What is the gender and equity standard in the school? The learner's outcome, what do you expect to achieve after using computers in the class? And then addressing students with special needs. Those are the considerations you are going to make. Then you are going to follow these two principles, the technology standards for students, and then the computer policies and issues, which have been outlined here. These ones I will leave for you to go through. They are important, but they vary from one school to another. So this is just an example of some of these standards, whereby we are talking about the basic operations and concepts, the social and ethical and human issues, technology productivity, and so on. Look at them, understand them. Even the technology standards, they are also going to vary from one school to another, one institution to another, whereby we are talking about technology-based society, ethical behavior, knowledge and skills in the use of computers, also using technology to access, analyze, interpret, synthesize, apply, and communicate information. Also, the local standards are also going to be based on a specific institution based on what are your acceptable use policies. So if you go to different organizations or to different schools or to our Ministry of Education, then it is going to create policies, like what are the acceptable use policies? How can you use computers? There is this way you can use computers in a school. There is this way you cannot use computers in a school. So those ones I'm skipping them because they vary from area to area. There is also the technology use plans, and these ones are also based in on a school. There are schools where you will find that learners are using laptops, maybe in a class. There are others you will find that they are exposed to computers, but in a computer lab for a specified period of time. So those are the issues. Then we talk about safety and any other issues which are supposed to be also captured in the policies. So these acceptable policies, like here we are saying, they are going to vary from the school. Like here we are saying, these are responsibilities associated with using the school's computers and networks. So they are going to describe what are the responsibilities of educators, what are the responsibilities of parents and students when using the computers and internet. Then they will also describe the instructional philosophies and strategies which are supported in that specific school. And they are also going to describe what are the consequences. If you violate those acceptable use policies, what are the consequences? What are the punishments and such? So that is why I'm saying they are going to vary, but they are good guidelines. Even when you are developing for your own school, then you can follow this. The technology use policy talks about maybe the plan which is developed. This one is based on the needs and the vision of a school. And it is going to be maybe a 2-year plan or a 3-year plan, which maybe follows the overall vision of the school in terms of using technology, what are the expected outcomes of staff and students, then the timelines of events and anticipated outcomes, the budget that will be used to support the plan. So those are the technology use plans, which also vary. Then there is the issue of gender and equity, whereby we know sometimes gender, especially using technology and maybe these science-based courses, sometimes they tend to be dominated by boys, and then you find that in an institution, maybe it will be boys are more exposed to computers than girls. So that is something which you need to look out for and be able to ensure that that doesn't happen, because that automatically creates a stereotype which is not right. Also, how you expose, how do you use computers? Maybe do you use computers for rewarding those students who perform better than the others, or do you use computers as a tool to support learning? So all of those are going to be the issues of gender and equity. So when you are looking at equity again, you are looking at issues to do with income, race, location, education, like we were just discussing now. You talked about those children who are maybe in towns or in the cities. They are more exposed to digital gadgets. So they will appear to be more learned than students who are from maybe rural areas. That is an equity concern which needs to be addressed. So those are things you look at. Then the other issues are to do with ethics, privacy, and safety, whereby when we are talking about computer ethics, is how are you using it properly? You know, you include things to do with copyright. Are you infringing on other people's copyrights? Are you using material that is copyrighted and you are using it illegally? Anonymity. Are you exposing your students, or are they protected, their accounts and their online profiles? And also filtering which software to use and which one not to use. Copyright issues like computer fraud, theft and hacking, or intentionally spreading viruses, those ones are actually crimes which you need to guard against. Also, fair use of the internet and avoiding plagiarism, those are issues you need to look at when you are creating those policies, as well as computer fraud and theft, like illegal transfer. Maybe you have a book which you bought in a digital copy, and then since you bought it, you decided to share it with your colleagues and they have not bought it. that already you are exploiting the writer. That is something that should not be allowed. Maybe you have deleted some content which you should not have deleted. Maybe you are altering records. All of those are based, they are computer fraud, which are also crimes which you need to take care of. So those examples of precautions you need to take note of are like you should not attach names to photographs, use student initials in by lines rather than the names, also provide information about class as a whole, not individual students, also filter software, prohibiting students from accessing websites with undesirable content or they are unsafe, like something we talked in the previous class. There are those sites which are pornographic or they expose them to maybe violence. Those are things you need to protect against in school. So those are the guidelines when now trying to use technology for learners. And that is where I beg to stop. Any question up to there? Any question? If there is no question, then we go to the summary of the whole of that lecture, and we are talking about why we need to teach these digital citizens. Like we had said, these children are exposed to computers from the time they are born. That one we can agree. And as much as they are exposed to computers from the time they are born, then it doesn't mean that they will learn how to use it. Anyway, we need to leave them alone. That is why we have gone through all this lecture so that we can now use computers as intellectual help for them. Sometimes when we leave them, then they will all only achieve this one objective, which is a chance to play. That is one of the reasons, sorry, a chance to play. So when why we are teaching children in class is because, like we have said, there are those economic differences, there are those environmental differences, there are those who are more exposed, there are those who are not very much exposed to computers. So when we meet them in class, we need to teach them so that they have a chance to play with technology. They will play with these gadgets before they start using them formally or before they start using them for learning. So they can use digital cameras so that they can know how to take pictures. They will also learn how to work out for themselves how the cameras work, and they may well be supported by an adult. So at that time, even when you are giving them a chance to play, you can also support them. So that is one of the reasons in this when we are summarizing this lecture. And then there is the learning role. After they have played with these gadgets, after they have played with technology, then they need to know how to learn. They use computers maybe to search for material. They use computers to solve problems. They have an opportunity to handle these tools, and when they see them out there, they will know how they are used, like we have said. They know how to take control of these tools, and they can role play using them, like mobile phones. They can also take pictures of one another. They can use these digital tools maybe to maybe draw, create music, create content online, all of those things they will be able to learn. So after they have played, they also need to learn with them. Then they also need to have assessment, like after they have learned, is there a way you can assess? So these children, they need to use those technological tools or applications which can be able to evaluate them, which they can be able to evaluate them. Like we were saying, there are two types of applications. There is an application which will tell the child you have failed. Maybe these cartoons, or what are they called? These games they play with in the phones. There's that which is going to demoralize the child. There is another one which will tell them, try again, do it this way until they get it right. And through that, it will have assessed them. And through the assessment, it will also have helped them to learn. So that is the other reason why we need to teach the children on how to do it. And then the reason why we are also teaching them about technology and guiding them is also to play safe. When we are talking about playing safe, is making sure that these children are not accessing the wrong content. You need to guide them on what is the right content. Like we will see some websites, which websites are going to be authentic, not just maybe pornographic sites and all of that. It is not every information on the internet which is going to be right for them. There is a material, if it is not authentic, if it is not from the right source, then they do not need to base their knowledge on it, or they do not need to acquire it at all. So those are the four main reasons why we are teaching them. They need a chance to play, they need a learning role and assessment, as well as playing safe. That is why we are teaching about ICT. That is why we are guiding children as much as they may even know more than we know. Are we together up to there?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. So allow me to stop there. I hope I have made some sense throughout that 1 hour and you have acquired something for today. Thank you.
Thank you too.